that. And yes, society has a direct influence on that. On this rise and fall and this fluctuation of Iman that Abbas was talking about. This society has a direct impact on that. Because we're not in an Islamic society. But that should give us even more motivation to become like that. If Musa can come out of Fir'aun's kingdom, we can come out of here as a Muslim. A proper insan. Who's morally sound, and like I said, also law-abiding. Who becomes a representative for us. Inshallah. Please, my elders, my uncles, talk to us, please, inshallah. We're happy you're here. Let's run from you.
Keeping with what the deal said, like, I think part of the thing that you're discussing is pointing out is that we lack the resources.
You take this, I'll grab the hand up.
You can take the other mic. Somebody is following it on the internet, they can't hear.
What I was trying to say was that, keeping in point with what Nabil was saying, is that we have lack of resources, language barriers, so on and so forth. So within those limitations, how do you propose? Like, I guess the question becomes like, why do we deviate? We deviate because it's not a normal thing or a normal part of I guess Canadian customs, if you want to call it that. Right, so that's where your major deviation is, because you're not around that all the time. You're around it when you're here, for example, or if you're lucky and you have an environment that reciprocates that outside of the center.
Right, so what we need to do is we need to establish within ourselves that Islam isn't limited to four walls. Islam is at the workplace, Islam is at school, Islam is when I walk, when I talk, when I sleep, when I eat, when I wake up. It's not just that I'm surrounded by Muslims, so I'm Islamic. If I'm at school or work, let's say, around non-Muslims, at that moment I should still be Islamic. If we've limited our vision of Islam to be this narrow corner, then yeah, it's going to be against the norm here in Canadian customs, as you said. But that's...
You don't have access to that system.
What system?
The Islamic system is us.
It's within you, bro. It is. Are you looking for a government? There's a government won't answer. There's people in Iran, let's say, who are off track.
The laws you're talking about, Islamic laws that are innate and within us, you have to be told those, so you can't... know them.
Well, I mean,
I think it's the process of education that he's referring to, right? Like, you don't have educational institutions, like we have majlis, but I mean, it has its limits.
Well, it's right? True, you're right, but I mean now, alhamdulillah, we have books, a lot of books online in English. We have a number of majlis who have gone online, who answer their emails. We have ulama here who are extremely intelligent and knowledgeable. But remember, I mentioned this in a speech. Information and ilm, two different things. Reading a book is information. Applying your life is ilm. There's a big difference. We have information in our head sometimes. We read something in our book, it stays in our head. It doesn't descend down into our actions. We become informed. We don't become an alim. Understand that. The moment that that this information descends into our actions, into our daily life, we become an alim over that we've read it. When you're asking your girl who your Lord is and where your Qibla is and what your book is and who your Imam is, you sit there and say, these kids can answer that question. It's so simple. What we don't realize is that they're not going to ask you up here. They'll ask you down here. So if you've made, let's say, the mighty dollar your Lord, when you're asked who is your Rabb, you'll say dollar. Whatever exists inside of you. You think it's that simple to say, Allah is my Lord and Khani Kaaba is my Qibla? No, it's not that simple. It's up here, you understand? It's down here, it's inside your wujud, in your qalb, it's in your actions. Ask yourself that question. So this idea that I don't live in a system where it's Islamic, so therefore, you know, I mean, I can take you to a system where there is Islam everywhere. There's more corruption there than there is here. Lack of actual books, lack of, let's say, ulama. Oh, that's...
But even the ulama, I mean, they're not from this society.
Well,
you are. That's different.
I'm not an alim, first of all, but there are ulama who can...
You're from here, you can relate to it. That's why these things are...
I understand that.
This is the first step I would say.
I understand that. But you know what? About 10 years ago, Nabil, 15 years ago, there weren't half as many books online. There weren't half as many individuals who are now in the Hausa who are English speaking, who are native English speakers. So there's a movement here to educate this part of the world. But the movement is twofold. Right? There's 40 of us in Qom. right? There's 40 of us in Qom. There are communities in the U.S. that spend their entire Muharram Ramadan with videotapes and DVDs, right? So there's definitely a system right now in place that's trying to fill those gaps, but it's going to take time. In the meantime, though, there needs to be some effort on our end to educate ourselves. And there is, alhamdulillah, there is. There's revolutions happening here in these communities that is fun to be around. So you just want to jump on and let's see where it takes me. And that wasn't around 15 years ago. Yeah. Yes, Susan.
I think like one of the problems.
It was your dad's recommendation talking to Mike. I think you have to abide by that recommendation.
Yeah.
In case your mom is listening to you online, so.
She's here.
Oh, she's here.
Okay, I think the biggest problem is that in our schools, the reason why we always say I and not we is because in our schools, 6 hours a day, I think this is the biggest problem that we have. The teachers are always saying, don't worry about what your parents say, don't worry about what your friends say, don't worry about anybody, just think about I. They're like always telling you, they're like, when you grow up, if you can't do this, don't worry, as long as you're happy, it's okay. Like, don't worry about your parents, don't worry about your friends.
Yeah, you should tell her that I won't be happy with I.
So but then I'm not saying like there's only one teacher, like that's a system. Like every single teacher there is.
Well,
they're not
I don't know if every single teacher. I've had teachers who have never told me to just, I. But I understand. The society here, like I told you, the society that talks a lot about, what, you are who you are, you have rights, no one tells you what to do, this and that, call the cops on your parents. That all exists here. But, like I said, you have to, it's not the idea that you live in an Islamic state or society and try to hold on to your iman there. True iman comes where there's spit on the other around and you become Musa. Yes. Yes. Oh, sorry, hold on, Mike. Our sisters, God forbid. Yeah? Please, there's some of the sisters who want to say something. The mic won't go there. Go ahead, Mother.
Okay, so you mentioned the fact that amongst the youth there are some instances in which we create a doubt amongst ourselves and we don't go about doing the research to answer that question, so we have it in ourselves for a very long time.
Do you agree, by the way?
Yes.
Okay.
I do agree. And with this thought, keep in mind that we do have resources, as we said, we have Nahjul Balagha, we have the Quran, we have the Hadith, but I don't think we don't have the skill of using those resources in a situation that applies to the current situation, to apply those things in the current situation.
Okay.
So if we take that in a practical way, do you think it's possible to have sort of a workshop or a resource in which we can kind of learn how to apply these resources?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's a good point. She's saying that, sorry? Yeah, we have the resources available. We just cannot apply them to be beneficial for our day and age. I was in Atlanta. It's a beautiful story. I was in Atlanta this last weekend, and they have a Sunday school there, so I went to go teach the small kids. They're 10, 11 years old. And we're talking about Imam Zamana. And I asked this young sister, she was 8 or 9 years old. I said, tell me what you think about the Imam. Anything that comes in your head. She's 8 or 9 years old. She says, I find it tough to connect with him because he's now. And my concept of Imams was back then. Understand it. It's such a beautiful statement. She's saying, the Imam for us is now. She's alive. He's alive. He's here. He might be beside me. That doesn't sit well with me, she's saying. My Imams is Imams of Khaybar and Karbala and, Mashhad, and who existed 1,400 years ago. You're telling me the Imam exists now? Ooh, that's tough for me. So adopting these policies and these procedures into our life is extremely important. The approach should always be that Islam has a number of theories. Great, grand theories. But until you practice them, those theories remain theories. And we all know, those of us who are in university and colleges, where there's a lab or some sort of tutorial for a theory class, it kind of gels things together. Right? That's the same idea. You know, we